It's Santi, aka Ocean on the Rocks, coming back to you guys with another one. Recognizing the Game, episode 35. Yatu Sabis, you know what it is. This is semen retention and the God concept part 3. And the reason that I started speaking on this topic in association with semen retention is because what I find on other channels is unconscious forcing of people with this particular concept, telling you that you need to put God first and this and that it's all about God. First of all, everybody is not a Christian. Everybody does not identify with that. Everybody doesn't hold that word and that concept at such a high esteem, especially indigenous people. And a lot of people that use the word God without allowing you to come into your own understanding as to what the concept of God is a reference to, such as saying the cosmos or nature. A lot of those individuals do not study and do not do their research, and they don't know their history. God itself, which is a 3-letter English word, is a European concept. And we're not talking about the original indigenous blacks that lived in Europe. And the only reason why it has so much importance and recognition today is because of colonization. Colonization and from Europeans at the hands of the Catholic Church, going and imposing Western religious ideas and systems onto black and brown peoples globally. That's called colonization. And what I mean by Western thinking, Western philosophy, that is Eurocentric Anglo-Saxon thinking, or what we call white people, which is a false construct, but that's another conversation. If you're going to sit here and be talking about spirituality and the matrix, you need to touch on it on all different levels that it comprises of. And you need to have research articles and things of that nature that you're delving into that comes with the act of you questioning your own thoughts if you're going to speak on these topics, because a lot of people don't know what they think they know about history, especially if you're coming from strictly a biblical Western religious perspective, which does not even tell you 5% of what has actually happened in this world and about what's going on and what's taking place right now, because of things that actually happened in history, not speculation or what people are posting on social media. We're talking about research. We're talking about things the oppressor documented about what he did, and the people he encountered speak on him doing that too. The God concept, that 3-letter English word, is a young word. When it comes to the English language, that word is probably 300 to 400 years old. Before colonization, the concepts Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, even Buddhism, those concepts didn't exist. Prior to colonization, the people associated with those spiritual systems that did not use those terminologies to identify themselves. Even Jesus was not a Christian. I got to point this stuff out to y'all because y'all speak from a false sense of confidence. Jesus is a mythology. It is even claimed that Jesus went, him and his mother Mary, I believe when he was younger, they went and hid in Egypt. But there's no documentation in Kemet, which is the original name of Egypt prior to the Roman defeat of Egypt, which Kemet means land of the blacks. There is no documentation of Jesus ever being in Kemet. There is no documentation in Kemetic text because they documented their own history. And that's the problem. You have outsiders and invaders telling the story of a people that they're not of. So when you're talking about the God concept was imposed during slavery, imposed on different people that look like me, people dark in complexion. I'm going to touch on things from a historical standpoint, from history. All of the things that have taken place in the past is connected to what is taking place right now. It's not a separate, independent occurrence. Catholic priests, the Vatican, they went into different areas such as South America, the Caribbean, Asia, Micronesia, Melanesia, India, and those areas, Madagascar, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and colonizing and enslaved indigenous people that were dark skinned, black. When I speak on indigenous and aboriginal people, I'm talking about those there originally and are the first people on of those lands. That's why you have with what's going on now, tribal people fighting against the Western systems like the United States and Britain and France. They are fighting for their ancestral lands, and they are fighting for those lands back that they originally ruled. Europeans were going into different areas, looting, raping the women, pillaging villages, turning the people against each other, turning tribes against each other, spreading lies about the origins of humanity, and this God concept was imposed on them. It was imposed on me. The God concept was used to oppress people, not to set them free. The Christian religion, the only reason it even spread to the Americas is because of warfare and enslavement. And that goes for any other area outside of Europe. And we're talking about Roman Christianity. And this is documented. I published research on this topic and things of this nature. I got published last year, which was a few months before I originally did this video. But I published research on the indigenous resistance to continued colonization and its continued resistance as well, because colonization is still taking place to this day. So in relation to semen retention, waking up to a way of thought in terms of the red pill and red pill awareness, when you take the red pill, you need to look at religion differently. You need to understand that religion and the narrative of religion that you've been given, it comes from the powers that be. It comes from the individuals that created the matrix. Your concept of God comes from the matrix. I will say that again. Your concept of God comes from the matrix. When it comes to semen retention and practicing semen retention, it is going back to oneself and going within. The most important thing for you to do in this life and that you can accomplish is knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Being immersed in nature. Purifying your mind to the point where you see nature as it is. See nature as it is. You see that you come from nature. Understand that when you look at history, Black and brown people need to understand their original identity and where their people come from. Do you come from America or do you come from Africa? Because Black people have always been in America and we're indigenous to this continent too. White people need to be combating racism because racism is a design of the people who uphold the matrix. If you are a white person, you need to be speaking out against racism. It's so much more than Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? That's going around. This Black Lives Matter campaign is bigger than that. This goes way back before then. This is a 500, 600 year fight ever since white Europeans came out of Europe. The Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Italians, the Dutch, the Germans, and the Spaniards were some of the first going into different areas and colonizing, imposing their spiritual systems in religion. And they weren't giving those people religion because they were trying to help those people. They were trying to disempower those people from their ancestral practices that they were given originally from their origins. And with semen retention, when I speak on origins and the God concept, semen retention is to bring you back to your origins and your original state. We are millions of years old, Black and brown people. We are millions of years old. We're older than Jesus. We're older than the God concept. We'll talk about what concept and what way of being and understanding the laws of nature that regulated the human existence. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how it was before. And this is what I mean by recognizing the game. Love. Salud.